They laughed at the old woman like she was trash. Nobody knew who she really was. Only one girl stopped to help her. She didn't know that one small act of kindness would change her whole life forever. She didn't know the old woman's son controlled half the businesses in the city. She didn't know this moment was being watched. And she had no idea revenge was coming. Fast. Stay till the end. Because what happens to the people who laughed, you will not forget it. Welcome back to SM Stories. If you love emotional stories about love, betrayal, and justice, you are in the right place. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story like this one. Now, let's begin. Adiz walked into the restaurant kitchen, tying her apron with tired hands. She had worked at Golden Spoon Restaurant for almost a year now. It was not an easy job. The owner, Madame Florence, treated her workers like servants, not humans. Every day, Adiz arrived early and left late. She cleaned tables, carried heavy trays, and smiled at rude customers, even when her feet were swollen with pain. She never complained. She needed this job. Her mother was sick at home, and every naira mattered. Adiz, table 5 is waiting. Move faster. Madame Florence barked from across the room. Yes, ma, Adiz said quietly, rushing to the table. The other waitresses didn't like her much. They said she was too quiet, too humble, too soft for a city like Lagos. But Adiz didn't care what they thought. She had one goal: survive, take care of her mother, keep her head down. That afternoon, the restaurant was busier than usual. Rich customers came in wearing designer clothes, laughing loudly, ordering expensive wine. Adiz moved between the tables, careful not to spill anything, careful not to make a mistake. Then the front door opened, and an old woman walked in. Her clothes were old and faded. Her shoes were worn out at the sides. Her hair was covered in a simple scarf. She looked tired, like she had been walking for a long time. The moment she stepped inside, the whole restaurant went quiet. Ah, madam, where are you going? One of the waitresses said, blocking her path. This restaurant is not for people like you. The old woman blinked, confused. I just want to sit down for a moment. I am very tired. Madame Florence walked over, her heels clicking hard against the floor. She looked the old woman up and down like she was dirt. We don't allow beggars in my restaurant, Madame Florence said coldly. This place is for respectable people. Please leave before you scare my customers. A few customers chuckled. Some even took out their phones to record. I am not a beggar, the old woman said softly. I just need to rest my legs. Rest your legs somewhere else, Madame Florence snapped. Not here. The old woman's eyes filled with tears, but she tried to hide it. She turned to leave, her shoulders low, her steps slow and painful. Adiz's heart broke watching this. She remembered her own mother, sick and weak at home. She remembered what it felt like to be treated like nothing. She couldn't stay silent. Wait, Mama, Adiz called out, rushing forward. Please sit here. She pulled out a chair at an empty table near the back and gently helped the old woman sit down. Madame Florence's face turned red with anger. Adiz, what do you think you are doing? She is tired, Ma, Adiz said calmly. Let her rest for a few minutes. I will pay for her food myself. The restaurant went silent. Everyone stared at Adiz like she had lost her mind. You will pay for a stranger's food with your own small salary? One waitress laughed. You are truly a fool. Adiz ignored them. She brought a plate of warm food and a cup of clean water and placed it gently in front of the old woman. Eat slowly, Mama, she said with a soft smile. Nobody will disturb you here. The old woman looked up at her, her tired eyes shining with something Adiz couldn't understand. Gratitude, surprise, maybe even hope. You are a kind child, the old woman whispered. In this hard world, kindness is rare. Never forget who you are, even when life is difficult. Adiz smiled gently. Everyone deserves respect, Mama. It costs nothing to be kind. Madame Florence stormed over, furious. Adiz, you will pay for every plate she eats from your salary. And if she causes any trouble, you are the one responsible. Do you understand me? Yes, Ma, Adiz said quietly, keeping her eyes down. The old woman finished her meal slowly, savoring every bite like it was the finest dish she had ever tasted. When she was done, she reached into her worn-out bag and pulled out a few crumpled notes. "This is all I have," she said, placing the small amount on the table. "It is not enough, but please, take it." Adiz gently pushed the money back toward her. "Keep it, Mama. Today, this meal is my gift to you." The old woman's hands trembled as she looked at Adiz. "Why are you doing this for me? You don't even know who I am. You don't need to be someone important for me to be kind to you," Adiz said softly. "You are a human being. That is enough." Tears filled the old woman's eyes. She reached out and held Adiz's hand tightly. "Remember this moment, my dear," she whispered. "Life has a way of rewarding kindness when we least expect it." Adiz didn't understand what she meant, but something about those words touched her deeply. The old woman stood up slowly, gathered her small bag, and walked toward the door. Before leaving, she turned back one last time. "What is your name, child?" "Adiz," she answered. The old woman nodded slowly, like she was memorizing it forever. "Adiz," she repeated. "I will not forget this name." Then she walked out into the busy Lagos streets, disappearing into the crowd. Madame Florence marched over immediately, her face twisted with anger. "You just wasted company food on a beggar. That money is coming out of your salary this month. And if you ever embarrass my restaurant like this again, you are finished here. Do you hear me?" "Yes, Ma," Adiz said, lowering her head. The other waitresses laughed behind her back for the rest of the day, calling her foolish, calling her a charity case who couldn't even take care of herself. Adiz said nothing. She simply continued working, her heart heavy, but strangely, also a little bit warm. She had no idea that her small act of kindness had just been noticed by someone far more powerful than she could imagine. The old woman walked slowly down the street until a black car pulled up beside her. A driver stepped out quickly and opened the door. "Mama, I have been searching everywhere for you," the driver said, worried. "Olga Kalechi has been calling every 5 minutes." "I am fine, Emika," the old woman said calmly, settling into the soft leather seat. "I only wanted to walk on my own for a while." As the car drove through the city, the old woman looked out of the window quietly, her mind replaying everything that happened at the restaurant. The insults, the mockery, and then the kindness of one young girl who had nothing to gain. When the car arrived at a massive private estate, gates opened automatically, revealing a mansion so large it looked like a hotel. Marble pillars, manicured gardens, fountains sparkling in the afternoon sun. Inside, a tall, sharp-dressed man paced back and forth in the living room. This was Kalechi, the powerful CEO of Adiz Holdings Group, one of the biggest business empires in Nigeria. Handsome, serious, and known across the country for his sharp business mind and cold personality. "Mama, where have you been? I sent 3 drivers to look for you." Kalechi rushed forward the moment she walked in. "I am fine, my son," the old woman said, sitting down slowly. "I only went for a walk, and something happened that I must tell you about." Kalechi's face grew serious. "What happened? Did someone hurt you?" The old woman told him everything. How she walked into a restaurant to rest her tired legs. How the manager insulted her and called her a beggar. How the customers laughed and recorded her on their phones. And then, how one simple waitress stood up for her when nobody else would. Kalechi's jaw clenched tight as he listened. His hands curled into fists. "They insulted you? In public? And recorded it?" His voice was low and dangerous. "Yes," his mother said calmly. "But that is not the important part. There was a girl. Her name is Adiz. She gave me food from her own pocket. She defended me when everyone else laughed. She asked for nothing in return." Kalechi's expression softened slightly. "Adiz," he repeated the name quietly, as if trying to understand who this person was. "Find that restaurant," his mother said firmly. "I want to know everything about that girl. And I want the people who humiliated me to understand exactly who they insulted." Kalechi nodded slowly, already reaching for his phone. "Emeka," he called to his assistant. "Get me the name and location of every restaurant near Marina Street that Mother visited today. I want the security footage too." Within the hour, his team had identified the restaurant. Golden Spoon, owned by a woman named Florence, known for treating her staff badly and constantly under investigation for underpaying her workers. Kelechi watched the footage on a large screen in his private office. He saw his mother being humiliated. He saw the laughing customers. And then he saw her, a young woman in a simple uniform, rushing forward without hesitation, offering warmth when everyone else offered cruelty. He watched it 3 times. "Find her," he said finally, his voice quiet but firm. "I want to meet this Adiz myself." The next morning, Adiz arrived at the restaurant exhausted. She hadn't slept well, worrying about her mother's medical bills and the money that would be deducted from her salary. She tied her apron and got straight to work, ignoring the whispers and side glances from her coworkers. Around midday, a sleek black car parked directly outside the restaurant. Everyone inside froze, staring through the glass windows. A tall man in an expensive suit stepped out, followed by 2 assistants. His presence alone commanded attention. Madame Florence nearly tripped over her own feet, rushing to the entrance. "Oga, welcome, welcome. Please, come in, she said, her voice suddenly sweet and desperate. Kelechi walked in slowly, his sharp eyes scanning the restaurant. The staff straightened up immediately, nervous smiles plastered on their faces. "I am looking for someone," Kelechi said calmly. "A waitress named Adiz." Madame Florence's smile faltered for a second before she quickly recovered. "Adiz? Ah, yes, of course, sir. Adiz, come here now." Adiz walked out from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron, confused by the sudden attention. When she saw the tall man standing in the middle of the restaurant, her heart skipped. "Yes, sir?" she asked nervously. Kelechi studied her for a moment. This was the girl, the one who had shown his mother kindness when the whole world turned its back on her. "Yesterday, you helped an old woman here," Kelechi said. "Do you remember her?" Adiz's eyes widened slightly. "Yes, sir." "Is she all right? I hope nothing happened to her." "She is fine," Kelechi said, his tone softening slightly. "She is my mother." The restaurant went completely silent. Madame Florence's face turned pale as chalk. The other waitresses' mouths fell open in shock. Adiz's heart pounded in her chest. "You are your mother's, sir?" "Yes," Kelechi said firmly. "The woman your manager called a beggar. The woman she threatened to throw out into the street. That was my mother." Madame Florence's legs nearly gave out beneath her. "Sir, I did not know. I swear, if I had known." "That is exactly the problem." Kelechi cut her off coldly. "You judge people by how they look, not by who they are. My mother could have walked into any 5-star hotel in this city and been treated like royalty, but she chose to test the character of ordinary people. And you failed that test completely." Madame Florence's hands trembled. "Sir, please, I can explain." "There is nothing to explain," Kelechi said sharply. "This restaurant is now under review by my legal team. Every complaint your former workers have filed against you will be investigated fully. You built your business on disrespecting the people who work for you, and karma has finally caught up." Madame Florence's face went completely white. She said nothing more. Kelechi turned back to Adiz, his expression changing completely, softening into something gentle and warm. "You," he said, "you are the only person in this entire restaurant who treated my mother like a human being. That kind of character is rare. My mother would like to properly thank you. Will you come with me?" Adiz glanced around nervously. Every eye in the restaurant was on her. "I have to finish my shift, sir." Kelechi almost smiled. "You no longer work here," he said. "Consider this your last day." Madame Florence opened her mouth to protest, but one sharp look from Kelechi silenced her instantly. Adiz untied her apron with shaking hands, unsure if this was a dream or reality. She followed Kelechi outside to the waiting car, her heart racing with fear and excitement all at once. The car ride to the estate felt like entering another world. Adiz pressed her face gently against the window, watching the city landscape change from crowded markets to quiet, tree-lined streets, and finally to golden gates that opened into a property so massive it looked unreal. When she stepped out of the car, her legs felt weak. The mansion in front of her looked like something from a movie. Marble everywhere. Fountains. Staff in uniforms moving quietly and efficiently. "This way, please," Emika the assistant said politely, guiding her toward the entrance. Inside, the old woman was seated comfortably in the living room, sipping tea. The moment she saw Adiz, her tired face lit up with joy. "Adiz, you came," she said warmly, standing up to greet her. "Mama," Adiz said, relieved to see a familiar face. "I am so happy you are well. Come, sit with me," the old woman said, patting the seat beside her. Adiz sat down carefully, still overwhelmed by the grandeur around her. Kelechi stood by the window, watching quietly, his sharp eyes softening every time he looked at her. "My dear," the old woman began, "yesterday, you showed me something money cannot buy. Genuine kindness. Do you know how rare that is in this world?" Adiz shook her head shyly. "I only did what felt right, Mama. Anyone would have done the same." "No," the old woman said firmly. "Not anyone. Most people looked at me with disgust. You looked at me with respect. That difference means everything." She turned to Emika, who stepped forward carrying several elegant boxes wrapped in gold ribbon. "I want to give you something," the old woman said. Adiz's eyes widened as the boxes were opened, revealing designer clothing, jewelry, and even car keys resting inside a small velvet case. "Mama, I cannot accept this," Adiz said quickly, shaking her head. "I helped you because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted anything in return." The old woman smiled knowingly, exchanging a glance with her son. "You see," she said to Kelechi, "this is exactly the kind of heart I told you about." Kelechi nodded slowly, studying Adiz with growing admiration. "Most people who come here after finding out who we are suddenly become very interested in gifts," he said. "You are refusing them." "I don't need expensive things to feel valuable, sir," Adiz said honestly. "I only wish for my mother to get better. That is all I truly want." Kelechi's expression changed at the mention of her mother. "Your mother is sick?" Adiz nodded, her eyes lowering. "She has been struggling for months. I work to pay for her treatment, but it is never quite enough." The old woman reached out and held Adiz's hand gently. "Then that is exactly what we will help with," she said firmly. "Your mother will receive the best treatment this city can offer. No arguments." Tears welled up in Adiz's eyes. "Mama, I cannot ask you for something so big." "You are not asking," the old woman said with a warm smile. "I am offering. There is a difference." Kelechi crossed the room and knelt slightly to meet Adiz's eyes directly. "Let us help you," he said, his voice unusually gentle for a man known throughout the business world for his coldness. "Consider it a small thank you for restoring my faith in humanity." Adiz wiped her tears, overwhelmed by so much unexpected warmth. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you so much." The old woman clapped her hands together happily. "Now that this is settled, I have another request. Stay here with us for a while, Adiz. Let me get to know you properly." Adiz hesitated, glancing at the grand surroundings, feeling completely out of place. But the old woman's pleading eyes were impossible to refuse. "All right, Mama," she said softly. "I will stay." Kelechi watched her carefully, something warm stirring inside him that he hadn't felt in a very long time. Days passed, and Adiz slowly began adjusting to life inside the mansion. Every morning, she woke up early out of habit, ready to work, only to remember that she no longer needed to. The old woman, whose name she learned was Mama Ngozi, insisted on having breakfast with her every single day, sharing stories about her youth, her late husband, and how she raised Kelechi to become the man he was today. He was always serious, Even as a small boy, Mama Ngozi laughed one morning. Never smiled easily. His father used to say Kelechi came into this world already frowning. Adiz laughed softly, glancing toward the doorway where Kelechi stood, arms crossed, pretending not to listen. Mama, must you always embarrass me in front of guests? Kelechi said, though a small smile tugged at his lips. It is my job as your mother, Mama Ngozi said proudly. Someone has to remind you that you were once a normal, awkward child. Adiz noticed something different about Kelechi whenever he was around his mother. The cold, serious businessman softened into someone warmer, someone with a heart hidden beneath years of responsibility and pressure. One evening, as Adiz sat quietly in the garden watching the sunset, Kelechi approached and sat beside her. You seem deep in thought, he said. I keep thinking about how strange life is, Adiz admitted. A few days ago, I was struggling to pay rent. Now I am sitting in a garden that looks like something from a fairy tale. Kelechi studied her profile quietly. Life has a strange way of rewarding good hearts, he said. My mother saw something special in you immediately. I am beginning to understand why. Adiz glanced at him, her cheeks warming slightly. You barely know me, sir. Please, stop calling me sir, Kelechi said, almost laughing. My name is Kelechi. Kelechi, she repeated softly. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the golden sun disappear behind the horizon, neither one aware that their growing bond would soon face powerful opposition. Word spread quickly through Kelechi's social circle that a mysterious young woman was now living in the Adiz estate. It didn't take long before the news reached Beatrice, a woman who had spent the last 2 years trying to convince everyone, including herself, that she was destined to become Kelechi's wife. Beatrice stormed into the estate one afternoon, her designer heels clicking sharply against the marble floors. Kelechi, she called out, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Kelechi looked up from his laptop, his expression instantly turning guarded. Beatrice, what are you doing here? I heard you have a new house guest, Beatrice said, her eyes narrowing as they landed on Adiz, who was quietly reading in the corner of the room. Care to explain who this is? This is Adiz, Kelechi said calmly. My mother's guest. Beatrice let out a sharp, humorless laugh. A restaurant waitress living in your family mansion? Kelechi, do you understand how this looks? I understand exactly how it looks, Kelechi said, his voice hardening. It looks like a kind young woman helped my mother when she needed it most, and now she is being treated with the respect she deserves. I don't see the problem. Beatrice's face twisted with jealousy as she turned toward Adiz. Let me guess. You saw an opportunity and you took it. Poor girl finds rich family, suddenly becomes best friends with everyone. How convenient. Adiz closed her book slowly, her voice calm but firm. I did not ask to be here. I was invited, and I have asked for nothing since I arrived. Sure you haven't, Beatrice sneered. That is enough, Kelechi said sharply, stepping between them. Beatrice, you will show my guest respect in this house, or you will leave. Beatrice's mouth fell open in shock. She had never heard Kelechi defend anyone so quickly, so firmly. You are choosing her over me? She asked, her voice trembling with anger. There was never a competition, Beatrice, Kelechi said tiredly. We have never been together. You have built an idea in your mind that was never real. Beatrice's eyes filled with furious tears. She turned sharply and stormed out of the mansion, slamming the door behind her, already plotting how she would destroy this sudden threat to everything she had worked to build. That night, Mama Ngozi called Kelechi into her private sitting room, her expression thoughtful. My son, she began, I have watched you these past few days. You look at that girl differently than you have ever looked at anyone. Kelechi rubbed the back of his neck, slightly embarrassed. Mama, please. I am not scolding you, Mama Ngozi said gently. I am happy. Adiz has a good heart. That is rare in this world of money and status. Beatrice only ever loved your bank account. Adiz does not even know the extent of your wealth, and she asks for nothing. Kelechi sighed, sitting down across from his mother. I do care for her, Mama. More than I expected to. Then don't waste time, Mama Ngozi said firmly. Life is short, and good hearts are even shorter to find. The following morning, Kelechi found Adiz in the garden once again, tending gently to the flowers, humming softly to herself. Adiz, he called out. She turned, smiling warmly. Kelechi, good morning. He walked closer, his usual confidence suddenly replaced by unfamiliar nervousness. I wanted to ask you something. Yes. Would you consider going out with me? Just the two of us. Adiz blinked in surprise, her heart racing. Are you serious? Completely serious, Kelechi said, a small smile forming on his lips. I have never met anyone like you, Adiz. Your kindness, your strength, your humility. I want to know you better. Adiz's cheeks flushed deeply. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Kelechi said softly. After a long pause, Adiz finally smiled. Yes. News of Kelechi's growing relationship with Adiz eventually reached the media, and just as expected, it caused an uproar. Headlines splashed across every gossip website. Billionaire CEO Kelechi falls for mystery restaurant waitress. Who is the woman stealing Nigeria's most eligible bachelor's heart? Beatrice used this opportunity to paint herself as the wronged woman, giving interviews claiming she and Kelechi had been secretly together for years, and that Adiz was nothing more than a gold-digging opportunist who had manipulated her way into a wealthy family. The lies spread quickly, and soon Adiz found herself the target of public ridicule. Strangers online called her cruel names. Reporters camped outside the estate gates, hoping for a scandal. Adiz sat quietly one evening, scrolling through the hurtful comments on her phone, tears silently falling down her cheeks. You should not read those things, Mama Ngozi said, gently taking the phone from her hands. They call me a liar, Mama, Adiz whispered. They say I planned all of this, but I never wanted any of it. I only wanted to help you that day. I know, my child, Mama Ngozi said softly. And soon, everyone else will know it too. The following morning, Mama Ngozi called an emergency press conference outside the estate gates. Reporters gathered eagerly, cameras flashing as she stepped forward, her expression calm but resolute. I have heard the rumors, Mama Ngozi began, her voice strong and clear. I have heard the lies being spread about a young woman named Adiz. I am here to correct every single one of them. The crowd fell silent. Beatrice has never been in a relationship with my son, Mama Ngozi continued firmly. She has spent years pretending otherwise, but the truth is simple. Adiz showed me kindness on the worst day of my life, when I was humiliated and disrespected by strangers who judged me by my appearance. She asked for nothing in return. That is the character I want beside my son, and that is the character this family fully supports. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cameras flashed rapidly, capturing every word. Beatrice, watching the broadcast live from her apartment, screamed in fury, throwing her phone across the room. Despite Mama Ngozi's public statement, Beatrice refused to accept defeat quietly. Consumed by jealousy, she devised a plan far more dangerous than simple rumors. Late one night, while the household slept, Beatrice slipped into the estate using an old staff keycard she had never returned. She made her way quietly to Mama Ngozi's private study, where a rare, priceless family heirloom, a diamond bracelet passed down for generations, sat locked in a display case. Using a key she had secretly copied months earlier, Beatrice opened the case and removed the bracelet, hiding it carefully in her bag. Then, she crept toward Adiz's room and slipped it beneath her pillow before disappearing into the night unnoticed. The next morning, the entire household was thrown into chaos. Mama Ngozi's precious heirloom was missing. Someone must search every room, the head of security announced firmly. When the search reached Adiz's bedroom, gasps filled the air as the missing bracelet was discovered hidden beneath her pillow, exactly where Beatrice had planted it. "I found it," one of the staff members exclaimed, holding up the sparkling bracelet. Adi's face went pale with shock. "That is not mine. I have never seen that before in my life." But the damage was already done. Whispers spread instantly through the household. Guilty looks were exchanged. Even Mama Ngozi, though she tried to remain calm, could not hide the hurt and confusion in her eyes. "Adiz," Mama Ngozi said slowly, "please explain this to me." "Mama, I swear to you, I did not take it," Adiz pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "Someone must have put it there. Please believe me." Kelechi stood silently in the doorway, his jaw tight, his expression unreadable. The woman he had grown to trust completely was now standing accused of theft, and for the first time, doubt crept quietly into his heart. "I need time to think," Kelechi said finally, his voice heavy with conflict. Adiz felt her heart shatter into pieces. She packed her few belongings with trembling hands, unable to bear the suspicious glances from the staff any longer. "I understand," she whispered, though her heart was breaking. "I will leave." Mama Ngozi reached out, torn between her instinct to trust Adiz and the undeniable evidence before her eyes. "Wait, my child." But Adiz had already walked out the door, disappearing into the busy streets of Lagos, carrying nothing but her broken heart and a small bag of clothes. Kelechi remained silent for 2 full days, locked away in his office, reviewing every piece of security footage from that fateful night. Something about the entire situation felt wrong. Adiz had never once asked him for anything. She had refused expensive gifts. She had insisted on earning her own way. It made no logical sense for her to suddenly steal something so valuable. Late on the second night, as he studied the footage frame by frame, he noticed something the security team had initially overlooked. A shadow moving near the study, time-stamped hours before the theft was discovered. He zoomed in slowly, his blood running cold as the figure became clear. Beatrice. His hands clenched into tight fists as he watched her unlock the display case with practiced ease, remove the bracelet, and slip quietly toward Adiz's bedroom. She framed her. Kelechi whispered furiously to himself. She framed an innocent woman just to destroy her. He immediately called his head of security. "Gather everyone in the main hall tomorrow morning. I want Beatrice there as well. Tell her it concerns an important family matter." The following morning, the household gathered nervously in the grand hall. Beatrice arrived dressed elegantly, a confident smirk playing on her lips, completely unaware that her downfall was about to begin. "Kelechi, darling," she said sweetly, "I heard you finally saw the truth about that little thief." Kelechi's expression remained ice-cold. "You are absolutely right, Beatrice. I have finally seen the truth." He nodded toward his assistant, who activated the large screen mounted on the wall. The security footage began to play, clearly showing Beatrice sneaking into the study, stealing the bracelet, and planting it in Adiz's room. Gasps echoed through the hall. Beatrice's confident smile crumbled instantly into horror. That is fake," she stammered, backing away. "Someone edited this footage." "Save your lies," Kelechi said coldly. "You framed an innocent woman out of jealousy and greed. You humiliated my mother's guest, someone who has shown nothing but kindness since the day we met her." Mama Ngozi's face hardened with disappointment and fury. "How could you do something so cruel?" she demanded. "I did it because I love him," Beatrice screamed desperately. "I have loved him for years while that nobody swept in and stole everything." "You never had anything to lose," Kelechi said flatly. "There was never anything between us. Security, please escort Beatrice off this property immediately and ensure she is never allowed back." As security guards firmly guided a screaming, protesting Beatrice out of the mansion, Kelechi turned to his mother, his expression filled with regret. "I need to find Adiz," he said urgently. "I need to fix this." Adiz sat alone in her small, humble apartment, staring blankly at the cracked ceiling above her. She had lost everything once again. Her job, her dignity, and now, she feared, the love that had begun blossoming in her heart. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door slowly, surprised to see Kelechi standing there, his expression exhausted but determined. "Kelechi," she whispered, stepping back slightly. "Why are you here?" "I came to apologize," Kelechi said immediately, his voice thick with emotion. "I doubted you, even for a moment, and I will never forgive myself for that." Adi's eyes filled with tears. "You believed I could steal from your family." "I was wrong," Kelechi said firmly. "Beatrice framed you. I have the proof. She has already been removed from our lives permanently." Adi's shoulders sagged with relief, though the hurt still lingered deeply in her chest. "It still hurts, Kelechi, knowing that you doubted me, even for a moment." "I know," Kelechi said softly, stepping closer. "And I understand if you need time. But please know this. My heart has never doubted you. Only my mind hesitated in confusion for 2 days, and I am deeply sorry for that pain I caused you." Adiz studied his face carefully, searching for any trace of dishonesty, finding none. Slowly, the walls around her heart began to soften. "Come back home, Adiz," Kelechi said gently. "My mother misses you terribly, and so do I." After a long, thoughtful silence, Adiz finally nodded. "All right," she whispered. "I will come back." Life slowly returned to normal after Beatrice's disgraceful exit. Mama Ngozi welcomed Adiz back with open arms, tears streaming down her wrinkled cheeks as she embraced her tightly. "I should have trusted you completely," Mama Ngozi said, her voice filled with regret. "I am truly sorry, my child." "It is all right, Mama," Adiz said warmly. "The truth came out, and that is what matters most." As weeks passed, Kelechi and Adiz's bond grew stronger than ever, weathering the storm together and emerging even closer. One quiet evening, Kelechi led her to the same garden where their journey together had truly begun. "Adiz," he said, his voice trembling slightly with nervous emotion. "From the moment my mother told me about a kind stranger who defended her with nothing to gain, I knew there was something special about you. Every day since then has only confirmed it." He knelt slowly, pulling out a small velvet box, revealing a stunning diamond ring that sparkled beautifully under the evening stars. "I do not care about wealth or status when I look at you," Kelechi continued, his voice filled with raw sincerity. "I only care about your heart, your kindness, and the way you make me want to become a better man every single day. Adiz, will you marry me?" Tears streamed freely down Adiz's face as she covered her mouth in overwhelming joy. "Yes," she whispered through her tears. "Yes, Kelechi, I will marry you." Kelechi slipped the ring gently onto her finger before pulling her into a warm, loving embrace, sealing their promise with a tender kiss beneath the stars. The wedding day arrived, grander and more beautiful than anyone could have imagined. Dignitaries, business leaders, and celebrities filled the enormous venue, but none of that mattered to Adiz as she walked down the aisle in a stunning gown, her eyes locked only on Kelechi waiting for her. Mama Ngozi stood proudly among the guests, tears of happiness streaming down her face as she watched the granddaughter of her heart finally becoming part of the family officially. As the ceremony reached its emotional peak, Mama Ngozi stepped forward, holding a small antique box. "Adiz," she said warmly, her voice carrying through the silent venue. "The day we met, you showed me kindness that I will treasure for the rest of my life. Today, I welcome you fully into this family, not just as my son's wife, but as my own daughter." She opened the box, revealing a beautiful heirloom necklace, placing it gently around Adiz's neck. "Welcome home, my daughter," Mama Ngozi whispered. The crowd erupted into warm applause as Kelechi took Adiz's hands in his own, staring into her eyes with overwhelming love and pride. "You changed my life completely," he whispered. "You taught me that true wealth is measured by the kindness in someone's heart, not the size of their bank account." Adiz smiled through happy tears. "And you taught me that good things truly do happen to good people." As they sealed their vows with a loving kiss, fireworks lit up the night sky above them, celebrating a love story built not on wealth or status, but on genuine kindness that had quietly changed everything. 1 year later, Adiz stood proudly in front of a newly built community center, funded entirely by the Kind Heart Foundation she had established with Kelechi's full support. The center provided free meals, job training, and support for struggling families across Lagos. "I know what it feels like to have nothing," Adiz said warmly to the crowd gathered before her. "But I also know that kindness costs nothing, and it can change everything. Never let this world make you forget who you are." As the crowd applauded warmly, Kelechi wrapped his arm gently around her waist, pride shining brightly in his eyes. "You have built something truly beautiful," he whispered. "We built it together," Adiz corrected softly, smiling up at him. That evening, as they walked hand in hand through the garden where their love story had blossomed, Adiz looked up at the stars, remembering the tired old woman who had walked into her life that fateful afternoon. Kindness had cost her nothing that day, yet it had given her everything in return.